All right, here we are with a little state of professional bass fishing in the fall of 2023. There's been a lot of chatter here recently, and I go back and forth with one of my friends, a former pro angler, about what's going on with bass fishing today. And there's been like the Jacob Fouts video that recently came out, and of course, Randy Blockett's always got to chime in on his take on it. And I'm going to give you kind of my take on what's going on. So let's back up to a little bit at the beginning of my career. And when I started out in bass fishing, it was the early 2000s. It was over 20 years ago now. And it was really like one of the awesomest time periods in professional bass fishing as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you still had the Denny Browers, the George Cochrans, and all those huge legendary names that I grew up reading Bassmaster magazine for. I grew up reading about those names, and they were still competing. And I got to know a lot of those guys. I got to know Denny Brower and George, and just Jimmy Houston and all those kind of guys. And now, gotten to know Hank Parker and some of it. It's just really, really cool to be able to be in the era to where I was early enough to where I actually competed against some of it. I didn't compete against Hank, but I competed against basically all those other guys, Roland Martin, all those guys. Really, really cool time period. And then fast forward 20 years to where we are now, there has been a lot in professional bass fishing that has evolved in that time period, and there has been a lot of evolution in society in general. 20 plus years ago, the internet was basically in its infancy. Social media didn't exist. I think maybe MySpace did, but we know where that is. It's a goner. So either you're going to evolve, this is the theme here, either you're going to evolve with the times, society, professional bass fishing, or you don't, and you're going to be left behind. So that's kind of my theme here as I'm going to explain, all the different stuff that's going on right now in professional bass fishing. So let's go back to that early time period when I was just starting out. I really was evaluating, all of my different options for being a professional bass angler. I was, a business major in college, and I wanted to get into some sort of business, financial, real estate development. So I was going to get into some type of business and, working for myself, and I knew that. Well, then as I really got zeroed in on being a professional bass angler, I figured out real quick, being a professional bass angler is like owning your own small business. You are your own brand. You basically, what you put into it is what you get out of it. And the harder you work on all facets of what you're doing as a professional angler, the better your benefits are going to be. There was kind of an interesting article just this past week from Ken Duke with Fish Insider. If you go to fishinsider.com, you can read about it. He had an article about the plight of the professional bass fisherman, and then he classified all the pro anglers into quadrants. One being like the great anglers that are great promoters and great anglers, like the Kevin Van Dams, Mike Iaconelli's. Then there's guys that are fair at the tournament side, and they're really good at the promotional side. And just kind of how all those different anglers work. But the bottom line for his article, and my point here, is that the more you put into it, the more you get out of it, and the more you're going to be able to make a longer sustaining career in professional bass fishing. So early on, I was kind of realized this is what I want to do. I want to be a professional bass angler. But early on, I realized that being a professional bass angler by itself was going to be difficult in order for me to get to, the type of income and everything that I wanted to be. Because I've competed for a couple years, and I realized I'm not going to have the accolades that Kevin Van Dam does. Probably not going to have the accolades that Mike Iaconelli does. I mean, he's got a ton of angling accolades. I mean, he's won kayak tournaments recently, and classics and AOI, like you name it. He won all that. I'm working on it. I absolutely think I can win a classic. Angler of the year, not out of the realm of possibility if I can just string together a good year. So we'll just skip over that part of it about the fact that to me, have it like, let's just put the Van Dam and the Cluns, all those type of accolades. Going to be really hard for me to achieve that, and that was the only way to get to the type of income that I thought that I would want. So I was looking for a business opportunity throughout, that's not related to having a so-called a sponsor, and that's the whole reason that I started Missile Baits, and that's Missile Baits, the bait company. I wanted to create something. I love the fishing industry. I love the people in it. I think there's a lot of really good people. I go to these distributor shows, whether it's the Pittman Creek, Big Rock Show. I see a lot of friends every time I go, and I love it. I love meeting the different people in the industry. I'm talking from dealers, people that work at these distributors, other manufacturers, a ton of other manufacturers. I mean, people that I compete against, I consider good friends. I mean, the people at Zoom, not super nice people. Always been very nice to me. Chris Baxter is the guy I talk with over there most of the time. Just this past year, I met Ed Chambers Jr. Amazing, super humble guy, very nice, and we had some great conversations. And that's just the cool stuff that you get to interact with and do in the fishing industry, and I love it. So starting Missile Baits is something that's continued to grow. Been going at it almost 12 years now, and we continue to grow and try to transform and continue to grow the business, because this is the way that I feel like that I can get to that income level that I was desiring to early on. The fishing career is sustainable. It's good. It's good. Everything's keeping the lights on. Nice house, all that kind of stuff. So I'm very happy and pleased and humbled to be able to do this for 20 years as a professional angler, and that is my main source of income. And the missile baits thing is what it really couples in with doing the pro angler side. They go hand in hand for me. So to watch the Jacob Fouts video and listen to him, both videos about where he lost some of the sponsors because he was being brutally honest, dude, I feel you, man. I mean, I've been there. I've had some tough times. I mean, not like in my first year or two, but it took me 4 years of fishing full time. I'm talking, all I did was fish bass tournaments. I fished them for 4 years before I had one paying sponsor. One. And 2 of those years was not on the top level. The third year I'd qualified for the tour, Bassmaster Tour, and so I felt like I'd really kind of bumped up. And then after fishing the Bassmaster Tour for a year, I made the Bassmaster Classic, and then things started to kind of like slowly progress for me as for the sponsorships and all that kind of stuff. So it took me a while, and even once I had that going for a handful of years, there was a couple years where things were a little lean on us. Maybe didn't catch them as good. Maybe I lost a good sponsor. I remember 2008. I went from one income level. The next year I was at 1/3 of that because I lost 2 major sponsors and one small one. So I went from X. I don't remember exact amount of money that I had from sponsorships, but I was the next year, 2009, 2010, I think it was. I was at 1/3 of that. 1/3 of that. So things got pretty tight that year. And if you don't know, I won one of these blue trophies in 2010, and it was really a godsend. I mean, there was no other way to explain it other than the fact that if I didn't have that win that year, went on to have a really good year, won a bunch of money on the tournament side, and I more than made up for what I had lost from sponsor income. So things work in mysterious ways like that, and I don't question it. I'm very thankful for it to all go like that. So believe me, Jacob, I feel for you. Keep your head down, keep working, keep evolving. Things will work out for you, buddy. You're good. Jacob's a very good angler. So when I see stuff like that, I can totally relate. Some of the way he maybe came across, he seemed ungrateful to some of the companies that he was representing, and they wanted to end the relationship. Dude, don't feel. I mean, move on and look for new opportunities. That's all I'm gonna tell you. Because if you do that, you don't worry about the past. everything happens for a reason. Just move on. Everything's happened for a reason. Keep going. So jump over to what's going on in professional bass fishing. I think Bassmaster was the king of when I started out in professional bass fishing. You had FLW that was really ramping up things up. In the last 20 years, FLW has gone through a ton of different evolutions. I mean, Walmart was the major sponsor there for a number of years. Things were booming under that Walmart, and with not only with Walmart, but with Irwin Jacobs running it. Irwin Jacobs was very successful businessman and had a really good way to go about running FLW with the Walmart influence. It flushed in a ton of money into the sport of professional bass fishing. Bassmaster stepped their game up. You had ESPN and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go into the whole history of it, but in the last 20 years, there's been a lot of stuff that's happened in professional bass fishing. And in 2023 going into 2024, Bassmaster is as strong as it's ever been as far as a brand, the notoriety, the quality of anglers fishing it. No knock to the anglers that left. There were some fantastic anglers that left Bassmaster. A number of those anglers are starting to trickle back in 2024. Jordan Lee's coming back over to Bassmaster in the Elite Series. We've got other anglers that are jumping over into the Opens. Ish Monroe is going to continue to be into the Opens. Cliff Pace. I forgot who all else. There's a handful of other anglers that are going to come in and go from the BPT side, MLF. Man, wherever guys want to fish, they should want to fish. If you're not happy wherever you are, go to the other side or go somewhere else to where you're happy with what you're doing. Because if you're not happy fishing professional bass tournaments, I mean, what are you really doing? What are you really doing? Because if you're not happy with it, stop doing that. Go do something else, and hopefully that'll make your life a little happier and things go better. For me, I love fishing the tournaments, and then coming back and running Missile Baits. Amazing team here at Missile, and I've got a great set of roommates on the Elite Series. I have a ball. Of course, is there stress? Oh, absolutely. Is it hard work? All of it? Yes. But you gotta love what you do, and I absolutely love what I do. So if you're not happy at whatever tournament trail, man, move over and get to where you want to be. Boyd Duckett is a good businessman. He is making some changes, and I feel like that the MLF thing in the last handful of years, it's like that car on the road that's overcorrecting. He starts to slide off the road a little bit and he overcorrects, and then he's kind of guiding it back over to the left side of the road too far, and then shoots it back to the right side of the road the next year. They're just kind of zigzagging a little too hard, in my opinion. I'm not telling Boyd anything he doesn't know. He absolutely knows what he's doing. Sometimes you're not even holding onto the steering wheel. You have outside controls that are kind of jerking it back and forth. And just from a 10,000 foot view, that's what I see with MLF and BPT. A lot of that stuff they have to do because of various constraints, but that's their situation. They're still putting out a decent product, I think, on TV and on live. They've had a few growing pains last year with that whole Cayuga incident. That was really unfortunate for a lot of the anglers involved. I think that was more of an administrative issue before the tournament and during the tournament than the actual anglers. But man, I feel sorry for the anglers and for MLF over there for that whole. That just looked and came off awful for those guys, and I hate it for them. But as far as going back to the Bassmaster side, I feel like that car analogy that I was talking about with MLF, I feel like Bassmaster has got the lane controls in their car, and they've got the thing on cruise control, and they're headed in a straight path, and they're going exactly where they need to go, where they've been going for the last 50 years, and that is the tournament leader in professional bass fishing. It's the biggest media platform, bar none, in the fishing industry for bass tournaments. And that's really what Bassmaster is. The brand is immensely strong. There is no other tournament like the Bassmaster Classic. I want to be there every year, and I want to be fishing in it every single year. I've made 13, and I want to make 14 and 15 and 16 and 17. I just want to keep making those. So you know, when you got the guys coming in and talking about how the whole demise of professional bass fishing is looming over top of us, dude, I ain't buying it. I am not buying it. You know, I know that's kind of Randy's take, Randy Blockett's take, and yeah, I respect his opinion. I've known Randy a long time, and he has always been a little out there. And I'm not telling Randy anything he doesn't know. He looks at life, he looks at everything a little bit different. I mean, everything. So he's not a normal bass fisherman as far as his perspective. And I think that's interesting and good for the sport. I mean, it gives a lot of people chat. I mean, I'm talking about it right now. It gives people something to talk about, gives some chatter, something to talk about. And if Randy was sitting in this room, he would fully explain his perspective on things, and we'd probably agree on some things and totally disagree on others. And that's fine. That's good. So it keeps his, by golly, it's really helped out his YouTube channel. That's all I can say. And I'm sure he's getting some fantastic revenue because of that. But, you know, that's where the evolution of the professional bass fishing industry is gone. If you're not playing on all the social media channels, you're not doing your job as a professional angler. Now, I'm not saying you have to be an influencer only, but if you're a professional bass fisherman and you call yourself a professional bass fisherman and you want companies to pay you, that is just a requirement now. That is just playing on as many social media channels as you can handle is just a requirement of professional anglers these days, period. Professional bass anglers, period. If you want to be taken seriously and you want to do it, go to ICAST every year, play on all the social media channels. And if you're not good at it, hire somebody to do it. I know a handful of anglers that hired people. They're not mega expensive, but they want to be able to have good, consistent social media content, so they hire somebody. And if that's where you are, then maybe that's what you should look at doing. Maybe people will do a shared revenue thing or something. I don't know. But I always handle all my own personal social media, and I mean, running missile baits and doing, you know, all these sponsor obligations and promotions and fishing the tournaments and rigging my boat and all that stuff. That's just part of it, man. That's just part of being a professional angler these days. That's the evolution of the sport. It's the evolution of life in general. You know, it used to be to where if you wanted to be a regular corporate business person, there was no thing called LinkedIn. Now, if you want to be somebody in corporate America, you better be playing on LinkedIn. You better be consistent on there, making connections, networking, because lo and behold, not everybody keeps their job for 40 years. You might be looking for a job in a couple years. A lot of that networking that you do through the social media, especially professional people, LinkedIn, that's just part of it now. So if you lose your job and you don't play on LinkedIn and then you don't have any connections and don't have any network, because that's on you, man. That's on you. So that's all I'm saying as far as the professional bass anglers go. Everything's evolving, and I think that professional bass anglers are just like any other business, any other small business. You got to work at it, and you got to try to hammer down on all facets of it, including social media. And I think, you know, even going back to Fouts knows he's got to do better, and he is. I mean, like in the last 2 weeks, his subscribers, aka subs on YouTube went from like 1.6 thousand, like 1,600, to almost 5,000 in like 2 to 3 weeks. Make a couple controversial videos, boom, you start getting monetized. You start getting, you know, a substantial amount of subs, and just being real with people. And maybe that's his angle, that's his take, and hopefully that's what works for him. So anyway, anybody says pro angling is dead, they are wrong. They are flat out wrong. And it's just like I tell people with a lot of different things. It really is what you make of it. And if you make professional bass fishing a professional sport, you treat it like a business, you treat it like that small business, like I was talking about earlier, then you'll be just fine and you'll be able to hustle. But you also absolutely need to work on your fishing game, because I'm always trying to work on mine. Do I need to work on it more? Absolutely, for sure I do. But before I leave, I'm going to show you one cool thing. With all the autism work that I do, I gave a gift this spring to Dave Mercer's daughter, Cadis, and this is something she gave me in return. she found this piece of driftwood on the lake that they live on, and she did this drawing with the, she burned it into the wood, and I think it is so awesome. So I hung it up in my office, and that absolutely keeps me motivated to go out and do more things with autism this coming year. So that's another platform that has opened up for me with social media and with being a professional bass angler that I never would have had before. Being able to do raise money and raise awareness for autism. So we're going to continue to do that, and it's things like that where you make an impact on other people that definitely keep me going. So it ain't all bad, baby. It's all good.